Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this webinar session. I'm Tony Schönenberger. I'm the Executive Chairman of STARS. STARS is a global platform to discuss developments which will impact our society, but also particularly our companies in the next couple of years. In this context, I'm pleased to inform you that START is right now in the middle of preparing two symposia in Singapore and in Switzerland, and also preparing two study tours to Croatia and China. Please visit our website for more information. Today, we are continuing our webinar series on the circular economy, a must for business leaders. And no doubt, this topic is of extreme importance for our businesses and the society as a whole. Today, we have the great privilege to talk to Dr. Mohammed AL-SURF. Mohammed is the director of the carbon department at Tilad Environment, and he is also the founder of the Sustainability Professionals in Saudi Arabia network based in Riyadh. Mohammed, thank you very much for joining this session. We are very much looking forward to your insights. I want to introduce you now to our moderator, Gordana Kierans. Gordana is the managing partner of her consulting company in Croatia. She is a supervisory board member of Circular Economy, and she's also president of the STARS Southeast Europe Alumni chapter. This chapter will be inaugurated in May, combined with a study tour to Croatia. Please again visit our website for more information. Gordana designed this very important series of totally 8 webinars on sustainability and the circular economy, and she's also moderating all these webinar sessions. Gordana, once more, thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and of course, welcome to this session. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone, and of course, a warm welcome to our speaker. I'm so excited to talk about the circular economy in the Middle East with Dr. Mohammed AL-SURF. Mohammed, a warm welcome, and thank you for joining us on your weekend.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
This is interesting for me to continue this global journey now in the Middle East, more precisely in your country, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Country known as, I believe, the second largest oil exporter. And this is what the perception we have mostly about the country. But most of us are learning, and I'm learning this through my delegates in my training, that your country is making big strides towards the circular economy. And of course, the Vision 2030 is the locomotive of that drive. So tell us about your work. You have been in this area for a very long time. How is it to talk about sustainability in a country like the Kingdom, and how has it evolved over the last decade?
Well, first of all, thank you. It's an amazing opportunity to talk about the initiatives in Saudi Arabia and explore, the opportunities to the rest of the world. Myself, I've been in the sustainability industry for more than a decade and a half. Back then, when people actually didn't know what sustainability, the phrase itself, means. So it's been a struggle for the past 15, 16 years. So now seeing how the country is really moving and advancing in the sustainability agenda and specific topics like net zero, like circular economy, cradle to cradle, and all of those topics, it's an amazing transition. So it's been an amazing journey led by our visionary leader, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who has initiated the Saudi Vision back in 2016, which is basically, I would say, based out of the sustainable triple bottom line: people, profit, and planet. And it's basically a thriving economy, We're looking at, you know, the environment. We're looking at the society. So that's basically the core of the vision. It's all about, you know, the sustainability aspects. So it transitioned from there, from a vision to an actual action plan. And we're seeing that day in and day out through many projects, through many initiatives, through many announcements, you know, every week, every month. It's an amazing time to be part of this transition and this movement. It's amazing, really, to say the least, even for a sustainability professional like myself. So imagine people coming into the transition of this movement. It's you know, a dream come true.
Yes, yeah. This is what I hear. I mean, I have to say, without exception, all of the delegates from KSA in my training are behind the vision. Everybody knows about it, and everybody is excited about it. So the communication of your government's communication is truly excellent. I mean, I have also Kuwaitis, and Kuwait, of course, followed in the same footsteps. They have a Vision 2035, but I have to tell my delegates what their country has as a vision. And I don't need to do that with your people. They are all on the path to 2030 vision.
Exactly, exactly. And the amazing thing is to see it through all of the, you know, ages, you know, through, you know, the seniors, the young, the youth, even the children. So everybody knows about the vision. It's really amazing.
It is, it is. So this is definitely one of the promising developments that we can see within the kingdom. We'll go a little bit more in detail in just a moment. Just again, for our audience, I forgot to mention earlier, of course, you're invited to ask questions, and I have the Q&A window open here. When I see your question, I will read it to Mohammed. So please feel free to join the discussion. However, there are some challenges. As you said, this is a vision, and when it comes to the granular level where we have to implement it, we discover that, yeah, there might be topics that we haven't considered before. Life happens. So what are some of the challenges you're noticing?
Well, look, you know, as I mentioned, you know, transitioning from a sole country basically relying on fossil fuel to a country where the aim by 2030 is to have 50% of renewables generating electricity for the country. That's a big, big deal. So with that comes lots of challenges. The first challenge I see from my perspective in the market through the past years is the lack of awareness and education. People know the vision, they are excited about it, they promote it even on a personal scale. But the problem is coming into the side of the education and the know-how. So that's where we are in need of you know, international experts to help us transition to that time that we need to be you know, advanced in renewable energy, in circular economy, and all of that. So it's that's the whole idea of the vision, is to give us kind of a guideline where we want to be or need to be. And it's not the deadline. You know, Prince Mohammed Salman said it in one of his interviews. He was asked, what's after 2030? He said 2040. And then we have the 2050, 2060 goal. So that's an indication that our leadership and the vision of the country is a long-term vision. So the biggest obstacle I see, and I'm trying to do something to help in that obstacle, is the education and awareness side. Coming from all sectors, horizontal, vertical, whatever you can say, there's a big challenge in that area. So the older generation who have not been in this industry are facing challenges because they are pressured from the top, and they don't have the mindset, they don't have the time to actually come up to speed with what's available in the market in sustainability and circular economy, net zero, renewable energy, all of those, you know, big topics in a very short time. The young generation, on the other hand, they have the capacity and the ability to learn fast, but they don't have the experience. So there's kind of a gap between, you know, they have the experts, but they don't have the time to learn. You have the young generation who want to do something, but they don't have the experience. So there still need to be a connection between those two, and there's a need for the education sector to really promote that. So to my experience, that's the biggest challenge currently, and it will still be the same challenge for the next foreseeable future.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Education is one of the questions because I believe it's a key enabler for the success of the circular economy. And you mentioned renewable energy. The challenge is, of course, we all want the same. We all strive. European Union wants to increase the renewables. China, of course, for many reasons, because it's a major producer, but it's also has its own targets for decarbonization. So we are all in competition for the same resources. That's one of the challenges, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it's not just about, one sector of, transitioning to renewables. We're talking about, cross sector. So talking from, the basic thing, basically the Saudi is really aiming for, because it's, as you mentioned earlier, it's the second largest oil producing country in the world. So the mentality that the leadership of the country wants is a diversified economy. So to do that, we need to transition to renewables, meaning solar, wind, geothermal, tidal waves, and all of those renewable sources. But it's not just focusing on that. We need to transition also in the tourism sector, in the mining sector, in the trade and commerce. So there's a lot of things that, domino pieces that need to be really aligned correctly to help that transition of the Saudi vision and make it from just a vision on paper to an actual action plan. So a lot of challenges in different sectors I'm witnessing personally. The real estate sector is a big challenge in terms of applying those concepts, the sustainability from everything, renewables and, the materials themselves. So the market, the building material market itself, is it ready for this transition? Does it have the necessary resources? Is it within reach of the normal people? When we talk about sustainability or anything of that sense, usually people think of the price. It's a high concept for me. I don't want to add to apply it. So why should I? So the dollar sign behind all of this is key to the Saudi vision to make it really acceptable, applicable to everybody.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed, you mentioned real estate sector. One of the things I do notice is the shock when we talk about embodied carbon. And because, as you said, we look everything at the surface, we look at the dollars, we look at the obvious one, but when we dig deeper into the hidden parts of the problem, then there is an eye-opening event, moment for them. We do have a first question from the audience, from Mr. Schmidt. What is, in your opinion, the values of art and culture in your country?
Interesting question. I know a lot of people now hear about Saudi and they are interested to see what's happening in Saudi or have visited Saudi for the first time. The culture of Saudi Arabia is one of the oldest cultures that is still strong, and people still are attached to it. Talking this from the personal perspective or talking even to the younger generation. So looking at the art and culture, it's advancing very rapidly here in Saudi, and the idea to expose it to the world has been a successful story in different fronts, either through calligraphy, either through the heritage. We have lots of heritage registered in the UNESCO. Even the style of the food, the style of decorating the house, lots of aspects that was not kind of tapped into now is becoming a trend and becoming a trademark for Saudi. We have 13 regions in Saudi governance. So each region has its own identity, its own culture, its own heritage. And the government and different organizations through the Ministry of Culture, different ministries as well, are trying to really emphasize on those cultures and heritage sites as well. So people come to Saudi, they think of camels, deserts. That's kind of like the stereotype thinking that they have. Come to Saudi, you are amazed to see the different culture and variety that we have. Either from the geographical side, we have all terrains you can think of in one country. The cultures going from east to west, north to south. It's a total variation of, cultural heritage that you might think of. even the language, the dialogue itself, you know, from difference between the people in the south to the people in the north. It's very interesting and a very, very rich culture, that I might say the least.
Yeah, yeah. From the agriculture in the south to the mountains in the east, the Green Mountains, and the resorts there, and of course, what we all see and what we all what we all remember is the big piece of desert in between.
Yeah.
That's yeah, the variety is very big. Back to the circular economy. I always think that we can see how serious a country is about the circular transition when we see how much money is allocated to this transition. So how much is happening at the federal level?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, you know, the amazing thing that's happening in the country is it's coming from the very top to really move forward with the vision and make it a successful story for the world. So the Crown Prince has delegated this task to different ministries to really apply the circular economy concepts. And this has been extensively done through the Ministry of Energy and His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, the Minister of Energy, who established the circular carbon economy program through the ministry. Now, the program, since its launched a few years back, has been launching, to my knowledge, up to date, more than 30 different programs to advance the circular carbon economy agenda. And the idea behind it, as I said, you know, we were a heavily reliant country on fossil fuels. So to transition from that to 50% renewables by 2030, that was kind of like a far-fetched idea. Coming to that now, looking at that target in 2025, I wouldn't be surprised that we meet that target before 2030.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with the movement, with the capabilities that the country now has, and the amount of influx of knowledge and materials and resources coming into the country, and the ease of process to really accept and bring those technologies and know-how to the country is amazing. You know, coming from the simplest thing as processing a visa, you know, you can do it in less than a minute on your mobile.
Wow.
So all of that helped us to really transition to the goals that the Crown Prince has put forward. So it's no longer a dream; it's becoming a reality. As I said, you know, the program itself has achieved more than 30 programs at the moment, and the funds allocated to it are enormous compared to other countries, and it's an action. So the country has put forward that we do what we say, you know, we walk the talk. So it's happening on ground. As I said, you know, it's not going to be a surprise to me that we meet the targets. And we actually met many, many targets ahead of time, some of them by 2023, 2024, especially in the tourism KPIs. So a lot of the KPIs have been met, and I'm not surprised that we're going to meet these targets. And the funny story is one of the KPIs that were met by the Minister of Tourism. He did this in one of the interviews, and he said to the Crown Prince, "We met our target," and he gave him a higher target to reach by 2030. So, as I mentioned, you know, it's something given in our blood that we are not satisfied with the status quo. We need something to be, you know, advanced and better.
Yeah, yeah. I read about that and I heard about the big amounts of federal funding for several projects. And at the municipal level, for example, correct me if I'm wrong, the boulevard in Riyadh or the line in near Neom are all designed in a circular way, so with a circular economy at the center of it. So these are also local projects that also allocated a lot of resources towards the circular economy. Are there more? Can you tell us about other projects?
Yes, exactly. That's actually, in some way, I can say it's been mandated to a certain extent to all of these giga projects and new projects under the Saudi Vision 2030 to have a minimum level of sustainability standards and reach the circular economy criteria. So it's not a surprise to find, you know, some of these far-fetched kind of extravagant projects achieving these concepts because they have been directed to put this in the initial kind of seeding design phase. And I've been part of several projects either through the design phase, now it's being in the construction phase. Some of them are actually going to start in the operation phase. So there's a lot of movement and funding to really allocate to apply that circular economy concept through all of these projects. One of them, you mentioned a couple. There's a lot actually. If I mention them, I think we're gonna stay a whole day. And we saw a lot of new projects being announced just a couple of days ago at the PIF Private Sector Forum. So subsidiaries, like projects that are in Riyadh itself. You have the Sports Boulevard, you have the King Salman Park, you have the King Salman International Airport, which is going to be the largest in the world, and a high sustainability standard applied to it, and many, many more to mention the least. So there's actually a great atmosphere of competition between these projects to see who has the highest level of criteria being achieved in that certain area.
That's fascinating. Also the financial district.
And the financial district, it's one of the, it's a success story for the country back when I was with the U.S. Green Building Council. It's one of the largest community sites in the world to be certified as a LEED neighborhood development. And each of the buildings itself, the assets themselves, they are LEED certified in different levels. Some are platinum, gold, silver, and whatever. So the financial district itself, I myself, every time I go there, I'm mesmerized by how beautiful it is.
That's great. And of course, with public transportation and everything to connect people with the rest of the city. Not everybody is happy. I hear also about traffic problems because of the projects. So currently, when I say the boulevard is being built and it has a circular economy at the middle, they go, yes, it does. It's also causing lots of traffic jams at the moment. But that is a temporary problem, I would say.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the topics you already mentioned, infrastructure, you mentioned education. One of the topics that I consider also important is mindset, which is also linked with education. And our mindset to understand that resources, there's no waste, that resources are either primary or secondary resources and can be reutilized if you bring them back. So what other mindset changes do you see, do have to happen inside the country, driven of course by education or by the vision or by the communication, the government communication? And on the other side, our perception of your country, what kind of mindset shift has to happen on us or in our minds outside of the kingdom to see the country that is truly transforming itself?
Well, I would quote the words of Gandhi: if you want to see change, begin with yourself. And I think that's true here in Saudi. Any change that has happened over the past few years since the launch of the Saudi Vision has been happening because of the change of the community themselves to really make this a successful story. And even from a personal perspective, I say this always. I'm not qualified, or I don't have the right to speak about something unless I learn it and be an expert in it. So one of those is, of course, the sustainability in general, but the circular economy itself. I'm happy to share for the first time through this webinar that we are partnering with the Circular Economy Alliance, and I'm having the honor to be among their Foresight Advisory Board, to bring the alliance here in Saudi and really advance the knowledge, the know-how, share the training, the education, to really change the mindset. Because as I mentioned, that's the biggest obstacle, really advancing the agenda here in circular economy. And it's not just, as I mentioned, from a regulatory perspective, even at the smallest level, education in high schools, in secondary schools, in universities, there's still a lot that needs to be done in that specific topic in education and changing the mindset. Things are moving in the right direction, but not at the fast speed and pace that other things are moving. So there needs to be still a push for that, area in terms of education and transferring knowledge. So I took it as a personal challenge myself through the association we established, is to bring the knowledge, bring the awareness from different entities around the world here in Saudi, either localize it or host the experts here to really spread the knowledge and the awareness. So it's still a long process to go through.
Yeah, so I believe it is. Speaking of the process, let's see where are we moving towards to. So your vision. We meet again in 2030. And what kind of country do we visit? What is your vision for, of course, with the circular economy in the center of it, goes without saying. But what kind of country do you want to see if we meet in 2030 in Riyadh? What should be there?
First thing is there's not going to be any traffic jams. That's something I totally kind of hope. And I think that we're going to go there in that area and direction. So transportation is going to be a big change. We're going to have autonomous vehicles. We're going to have, public transportation widely spread, even between different cities, which we used to lack. Now there's different announcements happening around the country with different linkage between different cities, major cities, like between Jeddah and Riyadh, for example. And now we actually have previously between the Eastern Province and Riyadh. So the infrastructure happening or will happen, we will see everything clear in 2030. And people will be able to transport between different cities, regions easily. The second thing I imagine seeing when we reach 2030 is, the incentives for people to actually apply the circular economy. Now it's all about still embedding it in the policies and the frameworks by the governments. Later on, I think the transition will be help from the private sector, NGOs, for example, to really advance that agenda. So by then, everything will be in that plateau. It's going to be all common. We're going to have different certifications or different credentialing, different incentive programs to help us in that area. And the education, not to forget. Now, several universities, to my knowledge, from my expertise, are advancing the circular economy. And one of the great examples is King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, KAUST. So we have other universities like Kapsar, Princess Noor University. So I imagine when we reach by that target, it's going to be a given in any university, in any high school.
And you are also home to several big corporations, among them the most famous one, Saudi Aramco. How much do these companies have to speed up their efforts to meet your vision?
Not a lot, honestly. A lot of these companies, Aramco, SABIC, Aqua Power, as I mentioned, they're well advanced in their KPIs, meeting their KPIs ahead of the curve of what the targets have been set. So, as I said, it's a very competitive market, and each of these companies, big companies, corporations, try to reach the target, the end line before the different other companies. So I see this in every year when we have conferences and events related to carbon, circular economy, waste. It's amazing to see the advancements in a very short time, in 1 year. One example is the Saudi investment in recycling company, SERC, which is kind of like really advancing the circular economy agenda to support the vision. Every time I visit that company or that organization, you're surprised with how much they have advanced. So as I said, I'm not going to be surprised, and the world will be surprised that we met the targets before 2030.
That's awesome. That's really great news. So if our audience here with us today, or those who will see us on YouTube, if they want to reach out to you and hear more about your work and the kingdom's vision, is LinkedIn the best option, or how can they reach out?
Yes, of course. LinkedIn linked us all together, thankfully. So please just search my name on LinkedIn and be happy to help and support.
On behalf of everyone, Mohammed, I'm truly grateful that we had a chance to talk about your country's vision and your work, of course. We know, we who have been in this sustainability area for a long time, we know the challenges, and we know it was a long journey until we reached the years, and we actually get people to admit that the circular economy does make economic sense. It's a true circular economy. So thank you for sharing your insights with us and your expertise. Very much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
And of course, for our audience, enjoy Valentine's Day and see you in 2 weeks. We are going to travel to Africa, Development Bank. See you then.